Hey guys, how you doing today? I'm going to be doing this one mask on because I no longer trust the outdoor environment, nor should you, especially if you're in Ontario. We are at the peak of and climbing. We are at the peak and climbing of this COVID catastrophe that we're all going through, right? Here in Ontario, cases haven't been higher than they are now, so we're higher than the peak of the first wave. That's official. We did it. Congratulations. Good for us. We made it. And it looks like the Ford administration's response is to shrug and, oh, maybe do, a restriction here. Oh, yeah, do a restriction there. And pretend like they can control this thing. That's what the Ford administration is doing. They're pretending like they can control this thing. Or at the very least, they're just shrugging and saying, well, we can't control this thing, so we won't bother locking down until people die, right? Meanwhile, the Liberals have officially now, like if you were on CERB, too bad for you, you get funneled into a different program, and maybe you'll get put on EI. But if you're working, right? If you're like me, and you were told, come to work or lose your job, and you said, well, I'm not gonna put my hands into the wheel of fate, so to speak, and trust the Trudeau government that they'll Jesus take the wheel of this, then what can you do? You can't get support services unless you actually are laid off, right? You can't get EI unless you're actually laid off. If you walk off the job, right? What are they gonna do? You walk off the job? Well, you're gonna get fired, right? And then you're not gonna get any support. So it doesn't matter how high these cases go. The Ford government's not going to do anything. They're not going to lock anybody down. They're not going to do anything. Like people say the first time we locked down was an overreaction. There's a segment of the population that actually says that and means it, believes it. Well, now they're going to see what happens if you have an underreaction. Because that's exactly what we're looking at. We're looking at a pretty extreme underreaction right now. That just waiting for places to actually have blow-ups, waiting for places to actually spike, like it's not good enough. You wait for places to spike up and then close them down. Like that's not how you do anything. But I mean, when it comes to health, just look at Ford, right? You can see exactly how much. You can see exactly how much he cares about health just by looking at him. Right? Oh, I guess after you put on all that weight, that's when you should start thinking about your health, right? That's kind of a low blow, but I don't really care. I don't really care. This is a very strange space to be in. This is a very strange space to be in. Because essentially we're now just relying completely on each individual business to make up its own individual mind, and for each individual employee to make up their individual mind about whether or not they can run for cover amidst a pandemic. And it's not like there's any talk of pay increases, hazard pay. It's not like there's any of that going on. It's not like there's anybody taking seriously the idea that, oh, maybe for their time and for their trouble, people should actually be compensated better. No, none of that's on the table. Because the people who are at the wheel right now, the people who have the power and the control, because that power and control has been ceded, right? It's been relinquished by our political class. They've let go of the wheel and they've let the capitalists grab control of it again. And the capitalists are going to work you to death the way that they do. capitalism's done a really good job. Like, I'll say it over and over again. The one thing that capitalists do very well, and it's the one and only thing that capitalists do very well, is lie. They lie very well. They tell very convincing lies, and they find out how to lie better and better every day, right? And one of the most convincing lies, or rather one of the most pernicious lies that they have told, is that, well, capitalism is the greatest system in the world. It supports everything. It built everything you see here, all that kind of stuff. And if you believe that, you're a dupe. Simple as that. You're just a dupe. All of this was built with slave labor and wage slaves. All of this was built with through the labor movements, through the union movements. All of the social services that we have were fought for by the populace, forcing the political class to respond rationally. Oh yeah. Like, to say that capitalism was throwing children into coal mines, for God's sakes. Like, capitalism was putting pregnant women to work until they died, right? Like, capitalism doesn't give a shit about human life, not even a little bit, and the capitalists can only mouth that they do, right? And it's obvious that they'll put their corporate profits ahead of the health and safety of working people. That's obvious, right? And if you were actually to bring up that, hey, we live in this unsafe environment, well, then they're going to tell you, well, then you can leave, as if we're not completely bound to them for food and shelter, as if we aren't trapped in this situation where we have to work or starve, right? It's really simple. It's really straightforward. And of course, what the capitalists will do is they'll completely downplay and lie to you about the power dynamic that exists there. That they can render you destitute, right? They can outright say to you, oh, okay, now you're impoverished and living on the street. They can do that. Of course they can. Especially in this environment where there's less and less capitalists who actually own more and more. And you can't do anything about it. All right. I'm in my little safe enclave, so I'm going to take this mask off. You can see my beautiful face. So beautiful. So beautiful. The scariest part about all of this is how everyone is walking around like it's normal. That's the scariest part. Because it's very, very terrifying to realize that, like, when the worst parts of humanity happened, when the worst things that humans have ever done, the populace, more or less aware of what is going on, just kind of wanders around normally, not really doing anything, kind of just shrugging. Oh, well, yeah, we've been abandoned by our leadership, but what are you going to do? You know? Oh, yeah, we've been abandoned. Oh, yeah, okay. Just keep working, I guess. Well, that's fine. We're just going to keep working. Oh, yeah, okay, I guess. And we can't expect capitalists to respond rationally, because capitalists will murder you if it makes them a penny. They don't give a shit about you at all. They'll replace you the second you die. And move along as if, okay, well, oh yeah. Oh, sure, Shirley, yeah, she worked here for 50 years. Okay, moving on. This is Becky. Right? That's how that works. They're not going to take a moment. They're not going to have even a moment of silence. They're not going to do anything. It's just up to the people who worked with that person to maybe take a moment and honor them. The capitalists aren't, right? They probably don't even know that person's name. Spent 50 years working for them. They probably don't even know what she looks like. These are dark days. These are dark days ahead, and what we're experiencing now is a glimpse into what a capitalist society will look like facing down the tough choices that are coming our way in regards to climate change. Right? People are just going to be walking around like totally normal as like 20 to 30% of the populace starves. And I don't mean like hyperbolically. I mean literally starve to death. Because they just won't be able to get access to the food that they need or the water that they need. And all the same nonsense is going to be said by the sociopaths, right? And I am more and more convinced. Like just yesterday, I had a conversation with someone online who was a sociopath, for sure. He told me to get a job. I informed him that I had an assistant manager position at a store that does very well, for which he mocked me and said that he was a CEO, and have fun with your assistant manager job. And when I said to him, how would your workers think if they saw you talk diminishing and demeaning an honest working job like that? His answer seriously was, well, I don't care, they can quit. I'll just replace them. And this is what we're up against. This is what we're looking at. And our leadership, certainly the conservatives and the liberals, in my view, that's their core constituency right there. That's your average liberal or conservative voter. And the only difference between the two is that the liberal, doesn't necessarily want to walk over the poor. Conservatives do, without a doubt. And all we can do is keep talking about it. And all we can do is keep being honest about what our experience is and what it is we're going through. And organizing and finding sympathetic ears. Here in Canada, I do think writing to your officials does matter. I think they do hear, and I think they do listen. But everyone's so goddamn exhausted. I know I am. I know I'm exhausted. But that's the way they want it. The capitalists want the populace to be exhausted. They want the populace to be exhausted. They don't want us to have energy or be boisterous or be able to do anything after we're finished work. They only want us to go home and drink beer, and watch TV, and recover from the ass kicking that we took at work. They're not interested in giving us a moment's break, a little breath. To me, that's the number one reason why they are refusing to actually pass an adequate support system while going into the second wave. Because they understood that giving people a break from capitalism allows them to imagine a different type of world, allows them to imagine a world where we're not exploited or exploiting each other for our labor, to imagine a world where we can actually organize ourselves for the benefit of everyone, as opposed to the benefit of a small group of parasites who do no work. And they can't have that. More than anything, they can't have that. Okay, oh, you guys missed it. Okay, hold on, maybe he won't move. There's a little squirrel over there. Check it out. Little squirrel. Little squirrel getting a nut. I wonder who's got the right of it. Who's living the better life, do you think? The squirrels or the humans? The squirrels seem to make a good go of it. They seem to find all the food they need. Reminds me of a bit. I don't remember the comedian. But he pointed out that, like, the earth created this world for us to survive upon, right? Now there's just food, you know. There were trees filled with fruit and food growing out of the ground, and we just seem to ruin it. Although not all of us. I think the First Nations cultures had it kind of figured out that way. Live off the land. Well, and I suspect that there are difficult aspects of that. I've done my fair share of outdoorsmanship. But at least it's honest. I think there's a longing inside of us, especially amongst the millennials. There's a longing. We long for the end of this hive city life. A return to something simpler. A return to something more straightforward. A return to something more honest. It's not going to happen. Well, I think I've run out of stuff to say. As always, if I haven't depressed you, or maybe if I've depressed you in the way that you like, share, subscribe. I do hope you guys are all doing well out there. I hope that the burdens that you carry are light. And I hope that there is some love. That there's someone in your life, anyone, your mom, your sister, your brother, your dad, a lover, a friend. I hope there's someone that you can take a hold of and say, I love you. Okay, guys. That's the end of me. Good luck out there.